My name is Marta. A few weeks ago, I received a vision unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life of prayer. It wasn't about a specific man, nor about a government or an election. It was something much bigger, something that involves every person who breathes on the face of the earth. In this vision, Jesus showed me a scene that will shake every corner of this planet, something that many are not ready to hear, but something that absolutely no one will be able to ignore when it happens. I know what I'm about to say might sound harsh, and perhaps some will laugh, criticize, or call it madness. I've been through this before, but when the Lord speaks, my obligation is not to please men. Yes, obey him. As a servant of the Most High, I have no right to remain silent or hide what I saw. What's coming is real, and denying it won't stop it from happening. I'd rather be called crazy now than stay silent and see people lost forever. The vision began so intensely that my whole body shivered. I was praying alone, late at night, when a bright light flooded the room. It wasn't ordinary light. It wasn't electric light. It wasn't a reflection of the moon. It was a living light, pulsating, that seemed to have a consciousness of its own. In the midst of it, I saw the figure of the Lord Jesus, with eyes like flames of fire, and a countenance that combined absolute authority and profound compassion. He called me by name, with a voice that pierced my soul. Marta, stand up. I have something to show you. It's about the end. Time's up. My heart pounded in my chest. I knew it wasn't an ordinary dream. The atmosphere in the room changed completely. I could feel the weight of his words, even before he continued speaking. It was like standing before a divine sentence that no man, no government, no power on earth could revoke. Jesus then showed me the earth as seen from above, as if I were floating in space. Thick darkness began to cover entire continents. I saw people running in panic through the streets, but there was nowhere to run. Suddenly, I saw gates closing, shops being hastily locked up, roads blocked by military barriers. It was as if the whole world had received the same order at the same time. Stay home. I understood immediately that it was a new lockdown, but different from anything we've ever experienced. Jesus said in a deep voice, "It will last 5 days. It will be sudden, without warning. And on the 6th day, Marta, something will happen that will change eternity for millions of souls." At that moment, I felt an immense weight on my chest. Tears began to stream down my face. I knew that vision was as real as anything I'd ever touched with my hands. And if you're hearing this now, it's no coincidence. It's because God wants to prepare you for what's to come. Before showing me the 5 days, Jesus revealed to me the signs that would come before. He said, "Marta, many will ignore this, but my children will know how to discern the right time." The first sign I saw was in the sky. It wasn't a common astronomical phenomenon that scientists could explain. The sun seemed to lose its natural brilliance, and the light turned orange, almost reddish, as if the planet were under a strange filter. The clouds formed unusual shapes, some like spirals, others like frozen waves in the air. The second sign was a global unease, impossible to ignore. These weren't just isolated conflicts in distant countries, but a collective feeling of tension that crossed borders. I saw protests erupting in several countries at the same time, as if there were a collective outrage against world leaders. At the same time, I saw secret meetings between powerful authorities, as if they were preparing something that they didn't want the people to know about. This climate of distrust grew stronger every day. The third sign was connected to nature itself. I witnessed earthquakes in places that had never been hit before. in all of recorded history. I saw seas churning for no apparent reason, and strong winds suddenly appearing in quiet cities. It wasn't catastrophic disasters that stopped the world, but enough events to attract attention. Jesus said, "When your creation starts acting as if it's in labor, know that you're close." The planet was reacting to the approaching fulfillment of the promise. The fourth sign was spiritual, and it could not be perceived by those who do not have true communion with God. I've seen believers around the world having similar dreams and visions, even without knowing each other, even speaking different languages. Many reported messages about 5 days and the 6th day, confirming each other's feelings without ever having planned it. Jesus spoke, "My Spirit will pour out revelations to unite and warn my people, but only those who are willing to listen will believe." Jesus also showed me that these signs would not come to cause panic among his children, but to prepare the heart. He said, "My children will feel peace, even when they see these things happening. They will know that redemption is near, but those who do not know me will feel fear and deep confusion, because they will not understand what is happening around them. This difference will be visible. While some will rush to stockpile food and hide, others will be on their knees, giving thanks and praising." Finally, Jesus said something that has resonated with me every day since then. "Marta, don't expect the world to confirm what I said. They will mock. They will try to explain everything with science and politics, but those who know my voice will know that it's time to prepare. When the 5 days begin, there will be no time to improvise faith. The time to seek, to sanctify, and to align your life with God is now. Before the signs become reality, right before our eyes. Have you seen any of these signs around you? Jesus then took me to the moment when the first day would begin. He said, "Watch, Marta, because it will be exactly like this, and most people won't realize that this is the beginning of the end." I witnessed a day that seemed ordinary across the entire planet. People going to work as usual, children walking to school with backpacks on their backs, shops opening their doors, heavy traffic in major cities. Nobody suspected what was about to happen in the next few hours. But in the midst of this tranquil routine, a sudden wave of news swept the world. It was as if all television channels, all social media networks, all radio stations and apps on the planet had received the same message at exactly the same instant. Global emergency. Everyone must stay home immediately. There were no clear explanations. There were no detailed justifications. Just one blunt order, urgent and impossible to ignore. The air, at that moment, seemed to change composition. The first few hours were filled with utter chaos. Some laughed, saying it was an exaggeration by the authorities, that everything would soon return to normal. Others were already rushing to the supermarkets, filling their carts as if there were no tomorrow, fighting over water and canned food. I saw people arguing violently in parking lots, families rushing to lock doors and windows. On the streets, police and military personnel began to appear in increasing numbers, giving instructions and, in many cases, physically forcing people to return to their homes. I saw drones flying over residential neighborhoods, monitoring every movement. I saw frightened looks, trembling hands as gates closed, children crying, not understanding what was happening. Jesus said, "At this moment, the hearts of many will be revealed for the first time." That was true. The mask of normalcy was slipping, and what each person truly was inside began to emerge under the pressure of fear and uncertainty. I soon realized that there were two completely different atmospheres coexisting. For those who know God and live in true communion with Him, there was a supernatural peace, even amidst uncertainty. They understood in their spirit that this was a prophetic sign, and they began to pray intensely. But for those who live far from God, fear has settled like a heavy shadow over their souls. Some tried to distract themselves with movies and music. Others couldn't stop watching the news on an endless loop. The silence between updates was suffocating, almost unbearable. It was like waiting for something terrible that everyone felt was approaching, but no one could explain or name it. As the hours passed, the world grew quieter. Less car noise, less movement on the streets. People retreated to their homes, but there was no true rest for anyone. The first day ended with the world holding its breath. Jesus said, "When this day is over, Marta, the world will never be the same again. Those who don't discern now will hardly have clarity in the days to come." The second day began with a strange feeling in the air that was impossible to ignore. Jesus told me, "Now, every person's heart will be completely exposed." The sunlight was noticeably weaker, as if it were filtered through an invisible mist that covered the entire atmosphere. It wasn't exactly darkness, but everything seemed darker, heavier, more oppressive. The colors looked faded, like in an old movie. The news continued to be confusing and contradictory. Some governments said that everything was under control and that life would soon return to normal. Others urgently urged people to stock up on food and water. For several weeks, I saw experienced journalists trying to remain calm in front of the cameras, using their trained professional voices. But her eyes betrayed a concern that words could not hide. It was as if they knew more than they could, or wanted to tell the public. On this second day, many people began to feel a different presence in their surroundings. Some described it as an invisible weight on their shoulders. Others described it as an absolute silence, which seemed to have a substance of its own. The spiritual world was more agitated than ever. Jesus showed me that angels were in strategic positions all over the earth, protecting families who sought his presence in prayer. At the same time, I saw evil forces intensifying their attacks against the thoughts of vulnerable people. Irrational fear, paralyzing anxiety, and painful memories of past sins returned like violent waves, attempting to destroy the faith of those who still had some. Jesus said, "On the second day, faith will be refined in the fire of trial. Many who served me only with kind words will have to decide once and for all whether they are truly with me or not." That phrase resonated deeply with me. It was as if every minute was a crucial opportunity to choose whom to serve. In homes where there was no prayer, the atmosphere was completely different and much heavier. Arguments would erupt for any reason. Relationships that had lasted for years were breaking down in minutes, and fear made people distrust even those they loved most. I saw neighbors fighting violently over packages of food, blood brothers arguing over stashed money, couples separating amidst the chaos. Selfishness was growing like an uncontrolled plague. Jesus said, "What lies hidden in the heart always flourishes when the pressure increases." The second day ended even more quietly than the first. People were visibly tired, emotionally exhausted. Some still held hope in their eyes. Others were already showing clear signs of despair and defeat. Meanwhile, on the global stage, I saw that world leaders were urgently meeting in secret video conferences. They were looking for a solution, but they couldn't reach any consensus. Some wanted to use the crisis to unite the world under a single centralized command. Jesus showed me that, even without fully realizing it, they were paving the way for something much greater that was yet to come. The third day brought an even denser darkness over the world. The sky was covered by something that wasn't exactly a cloud, but a strange density that blocked out the natural light. It wasn't night. The clock showed noon, but everything was as dark as twilight. Jesus told me, "On the third day, the masks fall completely. No one will be able to pretend to be what they are not anymore." I saw families hugging, each other looking out the window, trying to understand that phenomenon that no scientist could satisfactorily explain. Fear took complete hold of those who had no hope in anything beyond this world. Many began desperately searching for any answer that could calm their hearts. I've seen people turning to internet gurus, horoscopes, tarot cards, and even occult practices they previously despised, trying to find some meaning in the chaos. Others, in the opposite movement, rushed to open dusty Bibles that had been locked in drawers for years or decades. It was as if the human soul was forced to choose a side, once and for all. The spiritual presence that day was more intense than at any previous time. I saw powerful angels gathering those who were ready, organizing them as if preparing for a great celestial event. Their expressions were firm and determined, but full of compassion for those who still hesitated. At the same time, I saw demons working frantically to confuse, whispering convincing lies, and bringing up memories of old guilts, to prevent people from genuinely turning to God in those final moments. While observing the earth from above, I noticed that some houses were shining in a supernatural way, visible only in the spiritual world. These were homes where prayer and praise never ceased for a single minute. Even amidst the chaos outside, these places functioned as beacons of light in the middle of an ocean of growing darkness. Jesus said tenderly, "My angels know exactly where each of my children is. Nothing can touch them without my express permission." This brought a profound peace to my heart, even in the face of everything I was witnessing. On the other hand, I saw places completely immersed in impenetrable spiritual darkness. In those houses and buildings, the oppression was so great, so dense, so suffocating, that people literally began to lose their sanity. Some were screaming nonstop. Others were crying convulsively. Others remained in catatonic silence, staring into the void. It was as if the absence of God's protective presence was something palpable, almost physical. Jesus said with sadness in his voice, "So it will be on Judgment Day for all those who persistently reject me." The third day ended as a definitive turning point. The choices were being made, consciously or unconsciously, in every human heart. Some ran to God with everything they had. Others hardened their hearts even further in rebellion. Jesus looked at me and said, "Martha, the third day separates those who can still be reached from those who have already made their final choice. The next 2 days will only confirm what has already been decided in the depths of each soul." The fourth day dawned with absolute silence that covered the entire face of the earth like a heavy cloak. There was no sound of birds singing, not even car engines, not even human voices in the streets, not even the distant hum of planes crisscrossing the sky, just a deep, suffocating silence that seemed to have its own weight. Jesus told me, "Now the whole world feels in its gut that something immense is about to happen, but most still don't know what it is." I saw families embracing in silence, gazing out the window at completely deserted streets, trying to comprehend that inexplicable emptiness. Fear had completely taken hold of those who had no transcendent hope. Many frantically searched for any answer, any explanation, any word of comfort. I've seen people calling distant relatives just to hear a familiar voice, crying on the phone, unable to express in words what they were feeling inside. But I also saw faithful believers, even completely isolated in their homes, on their knees worshiping God and singing praises with tears in their eyes. They didn't know exactly what the next day would bring, but they trusted unwaveringly in the Lord they knew. Their faces held a peace that defied all human logic. Those who had rejected the faith throughout their lives remained hard-hearted even now, bitterly complaining and blaming God for the suffering they were experiencing. The spiritual presence was extremely intense, almost tangible to those who had eyes to see. I saw angels in strategic positions all over the earth, surrounding and protecting families who cried out to the Lord. Demons circled like hungry vultures, trying to sow panic and despair in every vulnerable mind they encountered. It was a fierce and decisive battle for the human heart, and every passing second counted towards eternity. Jesus said, "My true children will feel supernatural peace, even seeing all these terrifying things happening around them. They will know that redemption is near and that they have nothing to fear. But those who do not know me will only feel growing fear and total confusion, because they cannot understand what is happening in the physical world, much less in the spiritual one." This difference between the two groups was visible and dramatic. The fourth day ended with the entire world collectively holding its breath. There was an expectation in the air that no one could name or rationally explain. It was like the unsettling calm that precedes a devastating storm when the wind stops completely and the sky takes on a strange color. Everyone sensed that something monumental was approaching. Jesus looked into my eyes and said, "Marta, the fifth day will be the last, and when the sixth day dawns, everything will change forever." B'na. The fifth day was the most difficult and arduous of all. The sky was completely dark, even during the hours that should have been full daylight. The air seemed to have become denser, and even breathing required a conscious effort. Jesus solemnly told me, "This is the last day before I come to get my family to take home. The decisions have already been made. Now all that's left is to wait." There was no more news being broadcast, nor were communications functioning normally. The world seemed to have stopped completely. I saw people exhausted in every way, physically, emotionally, and spiritually drained. Some knelt to pray with genuine sincerity, pouring out their hearts before God. Others knelt as well, but only out of fear of what was to come, without any real remorse in their hearts. The difference between the two groups was clear to spiritual eyes, even though their physical postures were identical. God looked at hearts, not at bent knees. The spiritual battle reached its peak intensity on that fifth day. I saw powerful angels surrounding the chosen ones like living walls of protection. I saw demons making their last, most desperate attempts to destroy the faith of those who still wavered between two paths. It was an invisible war of cosmic proportions being waged in every city, every neighborhood, every house, every room where there was a human soul. I saw houses that shone like bright beacons in the oppressive darkness. They were homes where prayer and praise had never ceased during all 5 days. These houses seemed like impregnable spiritual fortresses. I saw other houses completely immersed in utter despair, without any visible light, where moans and cries were the only sounds that could be heard. The contrast was brutal, and it broke my heart as I watched. Jesus said, "On the fifth day, those who truly know me will be completely prepared in spirit, at peace, waiting with expectation, and those who do not know me will be given over to the deepest despair they have ever experienced." It was the ultimate test of every human soul. Every choice made throughout a lifetime was being weighed on the divine scale. There was no more time for changes, only for confirmations of what had already been decided in private. When the night of the fifth day finally arrived, an even deeper silence descended upon the earth. It was a silence heavy with expectation, dense with meaning. Jesus approached me in the vision, looked directly into my eyes with love and seriousness, and said, "Martha, when the sixth day dawns, you will no longer be here in this world. Prepare your heart, and prepare the hearts of everyone you can reach with this message." I trembled from head to toe when I heard those words. In the early hours of the sixth day, everything changed in the blink of an eye, exactly as the scriptures promised. A huge flash of light cut across the sky from east to west, instantly illuminating the entire planet. It wasn't sunrise, not even the light of a human explosion. It was a vivid light, supernatural, as if the very glory of God were invading the earth's atmosphere. The sound that accompanied this light was like a trumpet blast, deep, vibrant, penetrating every fiber of the being. Jesus simply said, "Now is the time." I saw human bodies being instantly transformed into glorious light. The homes that were in prayer during the 5 days were filled with this supernatural light. People were being enveloped and lifted high, some still kneeling in worship, others with their hands raised in praise, others simply sleeping peacefully. The sound of heavenly praise and cries of indescribable joy filled the air. It was the promised rapture. Jesus said, "I promised I would return, and I always keep my promises." But while those people were ascending in glory, I saw scenes that broke my heart. I saw mothers being taken away while teenage sons were left behind, reaching out in despair. I saw fathers being snatched away while wives ran after them, screaming their names. I watched childhood friends being separated forever. In an instant, the pain of those separations was indescribable, visceral, eternal. It was a deep cut, without anesthesia, with no possibility of reversal. Those who stayed behind began running through the deserted streets, entering empty houses, frantically searching for family members who had simply vanished. I saw a man fall to his knees in the middle of the street, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Jesus, take me too, please." But the voice of the Lord sounded firm and final. "I don't know you." That phrase echoed like a hammer in my heart. It wasn't about having a religion or attending church. It was about having a real relationship and genuine obedience. The news outlets that were still operating desperately tried to explain the phenomenon with theories of cosmic events, mass abductions, secret weapons, anything that wasn't the truth. But there was no denying the reality. Millions of people had simply vanished in a single instant, leaving behind clothes, shoes, moving, cars, pilotless planes. The spiritual heavens were in jubilant celebration, but the earth wept in agony. The contrast was stark. When the vision ended, I found myself back in my room, alone, trembling, my face wet with tears. Jesus had entrusted me with something too precious to keep silent about. He said his last words to me that morning, "Marta, tell them all that I am at the door. The time is now, not tomorrow, not later, now." I promised I would speak, no matter what it cost. The 5 days will come, and when they arrive, there will be no more time to prepare. Preparation begins today. The decision is now, and I ask you, with all the love in my heart, are you ready?